Well, hi gang. Welcome to today's Periscope session. This is week 6. Can you believe it already? We're about a third of the way through the semester. And today what I want to do is give you some tips on, hey, how's it going, Todd? Nice to see you all chiming in. Maybe this is a good time. You know, my other course, we won't talk about them, but the other course, they had a hard time showing up at this time yesterday. So maybe it's a day of the week thing. Maybe Wednesday's just a good day for you all. But I'm glad you're rolling in. This is good to see a number of you appearing. And I'd like to, what I'd like to do today is a couple things to help you for the analysis response assignment that you're going to be doing on Buddhism. And so the agenda today is, first of all, to do a brief autopsy of your last quiz. The average, by the way, I think was a 75. So that's like right on the median, which is fine. But you've done better. So there's a little slippage this time in your performance. But I want to go over a few of the questions that were giving you some difficulties. Okay, so that's agenda item number 1. Agenda item number 2 is going to be a brief autopsy of your first analysis response that you did on Hinduism. And what I'm going to do with that then is I'm going to use that as a way to point out some common oversights, mainly oversights, I think, or misinterpretations that some of you were making with some of the elements in the model. And so if we can get those clarified for you, I think that your Buddhism analysis response is going to be even better. So you hopefully have seen that the grades for your first analysis response have been posted. And I want you to remember one thing. I'm going to repeat this when I get to that autopsy. But I want you to remember one thing. I told you that because this was a unique assignment, you've never done anything probably like it before, and there were some uncertainties about the format and some uncertainties about the meaning of the terms. You know, I told you that I was going to be very lenient on the assessment of that, factoring into it. It's just an unusual assignment. It's just not something that you've probably encountered in the past. And so your scores do reflect that. And I want you to just bear that in mind as you go forward now. I've given you a lot, for most of you, a lot of comments to help you, identify the key principles in Hinduism better, which will help you in the exam, but also to help clarify areas where there was some confusion, I think, over what to look for in the model. Anyway, so there's lots and tons of comments, and I don't want those to go to waste for you. So be sure that you open up that file. All of you received a .doc file with my comments included. Usually I think it's in red. I think one person I did kind of a salmon color. And some highlighting and some concluding remarks. So there's lots of information in there for you from me, your humble teacher, encouraging you to look again at the model and to how to identify some of those key points. So anyway, just a heads up about that. So I guess the takeaway point of all that is I expect you to open up that document, to review it carefully, and to internalize the advice and suggestions that I've given you in those comments that I took the time to write out for you, so that you can then improve your performance on the one that's going to be due next week. Buddhism, right. Okay, so that's the agenda, and at any time if you have questions, just fire away. You know, hit a couple question marks and type your name in all caps. That would be helpful. And then, ask a question at any time, and we can deal with it as it comes to you. Okay? So let's get started then. All right, so I'm going to be kind of looking over here as my table's over here. Quiz number 4. This is the second one you had on Buddhism. As I said, your performance slipped just a little bit, and what I want to do is go over, I think, 4 or 5 of the questions that gave you the most difficulty. And if if you have a laptop nearby, or if you're at a workstation where you can pull the quiz up and look at it with me, that would be great. If not, you can always look at this on replay, or just jot down as we're going through the questions that I'm answering and what I have to say about it. Just jot down a few notes so that then you can go back to your quiz on Canvas, pull it up, and then see what's going on with your particular answers. Okay, so here's first question I want to deal with is question number 3. And question number 3 says that the first of the Buddha's 3 marks of existence is. Now this is a straight multiple choice question, and in the multiple choice question here, what I saw was a little bit of confusion over the first noble truth, which was in the first part of your reading, and then the first mark of existence. Okay? This question is asking for the first of the 3 marks of existence. So the correct answer here is anicca, that is impermanence or transience. So what I think many of you answered dukkha, suffering, ill, and that's the first noble truth. That's not the first mark of existence. So that was that a trick question? No, not really. You could have known that just by reading the question carefully, I think, and known that that was not asking for the first noble truth. So review those 3 marks of existence. They're in your reading for this week as well, which, by the way, I should have mentioned. That's the Buddhism chapter 2 in The World's Wisdom by Novak. So that is going to be a really helpful, by the way, really helpful resource for you in doing the analysis response. I'll get to that later. Okay, so that's question 3. 66% of you got that one correct. So that was about a third of you missed it. So that might just be a factor of careful reading. So do read carefully. Don't go too fast. Oh, by the way, that reminds me. I think I was looking at the time that it was taking most of you to finish, and a number of you were pushing it right up to the 30-minute limit. And I think what I'm going to do is add an additional 10 minutes for the 20 question quizzes in the future. So you won't have it this week; you'll have it a week after. Yeah, you like that? Good, good. I'm glad. Yeah. So I think 30 minutes is adequate. If you're not having to reference the book a lot, but I can understand having to carefully read a question, and parse it. That does take time, and you want to be careful. So I totally get that, and I want to respect that. So I'm going to typically add an additional 10 minutes to your total quiz time. So side note, back to the autopsy. So now if we look at question number 5, this one says, according to the author, what best describes the ultimate destiny of the human spirit? And here you select all that apply. And there were 2 answers that were correct. Now these were explicitly in your text, so it didn't require you to sort of make an inference about them. They're right there in the text. I just realized something, folks. I don't have my mic on. Can you hear me? I'm wondering how well the microphone on this iPad's working. Can somebody just give me a note here if you're hearing me? I got some hearts. Okay, I'll take that as a plus. Okay, good. Okay, yes, good. I think what I'm going to do, okay, is it loud and clear? Okay, wow, okay, good. So the microphone on this thing must be pretty good. Well, I guess what I'll do is I'll not go and get my lav mic. I'm just going to leave it go as is, and okay, good. I'm satisfied then. If you're satisfied, great. All right, so back to question 5 then. Correct answers are the first and the fourth answer choices. And so those say that the ultimate destiny of the human spirit is a condition in which all identification with the historical experience of the finite self will disappear, taken right from your text. Now, the answer choice right after that is similar, and it says a condition of total annihilation. And so what you really have to do is choose between those 2. They can't both be true. And in fact, the sort of extreme version of this, the total annihilation position, is explicitly rejected by the author at least, as an appropriate way to describe the ultimate destiny of the human spirit. So B is not correct, but the first one is. Okay, then the other two answer choices are also kind of grouped with each other. And it's the fourth one that is the correct answer here. So it is a condition wherein experience as such remains, but heightened beyond all recognition. Okay, so that too is explicitly drawn from the text. So it's not, again, it's not total annihilation, but there is some experiential element to this this life in our ultimate state, wherever our ultimate destiny is. And so the one that this is playing off of is the answer choice before, which says a condition of perfect existence wherein further experience is enjoyed in an imperishable body and soul. Okay, that phrase right there, an imperishable body and soul, would be like the Christian doctrine of the life after life, not what the Buddhism teaches. So the imperishable body and soul, that is too formed, I should say, too defined of an identity to be appropriate for the ultimate destiny in Buddhism. So it is that fourth choice there, a condition where an experience as such remains but heightens beyond all recognition. Okay, but not in like a new body and a new soul, that kind of thing. That's not Buddhism. Okay, so let me see what is the outcome on that one. So only 29% of you managed to get the two correct answer choices there, and I believe that the majority who did not, or who got less than a perfect score on that one, answered the total annihilation question. There is a sense in which the no self doctrine, for example, suggests that the way in which our ultimate destiny is enjoyed, if you can put it that way, is this sort of annihilation of the self. However, it isn't a total annihilation, so it's that total that is the giveaway word there. And again, your author mentions that. Okay, so next is 11. 11 reads as follows. The ideal in Theravada is the Arhat, who upon reaching the brink of nirvana, or nibbana, voluntarily returns to the world to lead others to nibbana, or nirvana. Okay, so Hunter was a little tricky here, I have to admit, because I gave you half of the statement is true. The first half of the statement is true. Yes, the ideal individual in Theravada is the Arhat. That's correct. However, what is described after that is appropriate to the Mahayana ideal, the Bodhisattva. That is the person who reaches the brink of nirvana, but voluntarily turns around and comes back into the world out of compassion and sympathy to lead others to nibbana. That is not the Arhat. That is not Theravada. Okay, so there, Hunter was a little tricky, I have to admit it. But it was a long enough qualification that if you read it carefully, you would have seen, oh, wait a minute, no, that's both Theravada and Mahayana, so this is false. Okay, so 72% of you got that one correct, which is pretty good. That's right about the average of the whole quiz. Okay, next is 12. Theravada teaches that the ideal society, its political organization, is built on a tripod of foundational elements or institutions. Select the correct answers. So this was another one of those multiple answer questions. Don't you love those? And 54% of you got this one correct. So about half of you selected wrong answer choices here. What surprised me is that not all of you picked 3 of the answer choices. Now, the description in the question is a tripod. Tripods have 3 legs. So I would have expected that everybody would have picked at least 3 of the answer choices, but some of you only picked 1 or 2. So I think that, if you got it wrong for that reason, that's probably a careful reading issue. So just be a little more careful on the reading of the question. Okay, so the correct answer choices here are A, B, and D. That is Sangha, that's the community, the monastery, monarchy, and the laity. So the wrong answer is human rights. The notion of rights is not part of the ideal society, political thinking within Buddhism. Okay, so that's question number 12. Let me see if I got one more. Two more, folks. Question number 15. According to the author, the central concern of Zen is overcoming what problem that all mature religions have identified? Okay, this too is taken explicitly from your text, and you, if you look in it, the wording is exactly what your author uses. The central concern of Zen, a problem that all mature religions have identified. Now, I've compressed some things. I've compressed probably about 3 sentences that he used to say that, but it's explicitly there in the text. And so the correct answer here is the inadequacy of words and reason, of discursive reason, to mirror reality. So that, if you read that Zen section, and as you read the readings in Zen for today, you will see that this is the big theme in Zen, is that words are deceptive. Because when we use words, we think we know that we are capturing something with our mind, that we really grasp the reality of what it is. And Zen says, no, you don't, because all is formless. All is empty, or all is, pick your descriptor there. And there are several descriptions that would fit. But so what is to be done in Zen is, because words and reason are inadequate to capture or grasp reality, this is what leads them or pushes them into this process of the koan and of the silent meditation on those koans. And those are those paradoxical sayings that are kind of little puzzles. And the idea there is not to solve the dang thing, but it is to break down that form of thinking that we have, or that assumption that, gosh, if I just think hard enough, if I get the right answer, I get it. I've really got reality. But that's not Buddhism. That's certainly not Zen. And so that is the correct answer here. And some of you answered, to prove that the religion's true. And no, that's not their game at all. Right. Although I guess, to be charitable, I guess you could say to prove to themselves, right? As an initiate, as a disciple, as a follower of the way, you could say, yeah, I'm sort of proving experientially the truth of these teachings. I guess you could see it that way. But here, definitely the best answer is the inadequacy of words and reason to mirror reality. That's the big problem that Zen tackles. And, okay, so I've gone on about that one, haven't I? Okay. Next, let's see. Last one from the quiz. And then, can you discuss number 14, please? Sure, let's do that. And I will move on to 17. Okay. The sect of Mahayana Buddhism, in which faith in divine guidance plays a crucial role, is... Okay, so the best answer here is the Pure Land sect. And I say it's the best answer because that is what your author stresses, and I don't have my text, or I give you the page number, but there's only one page where Pure Land is discussed, and it is, let me think for a second. It's in the Mahayana section. It's before he goes into Zen. I know that's right. I'm pretty sure that's right. Look in the Mahayana section before he starts going into Zen. The Zen, you remember, is about 8 or 10 pages. So he mentions on one page briefly these different sects of Mahayana, and the Pure Land is mentioned as the one that emphasizes faith in divine guidance. Now, it is true, especially if you read, for your reading this week, you'll see that there is, that theme is really part of all of Mahayana Buddhism, they all give some credence to divine guidance, to the cosmic Buddha principle that is accessible to all. So there's a sense in which, any sect in Mahayana, that would be true. But the one that is singled out as making it their primary concern or placing special emphasis on it, that's the Pure Land sect. So I think that was answer choice D. Okay? Any other questions besides those? All right, so I'll look for, thank you. Okay, good. Please do, and let me know what you find. As you've noticed, hopefully, on your quizzes, I am fine with revising grades. If I don't like how Canvas grades the multiple answer questions. I don't like the deductions for choosing the wrong one in each case. So page 128. Cool. Thank you, Tom. Left side. I think it's the left side, right? Sort of near the top. Maybe the first full paragraph or so. Second full paragraph. So yeah. Anyway, I do make some adjustments on those scores. So if you find a problem, if you can cite, where there's an answer choice that's equally as valid as Pure Land, by all means, let me know. I'll adjust it. I'm not perfect. Number 17, the training undertaken by the Zen disciple Zazen, Koan, and Zanzen, if diligently pursued over the years, leads to what? So here, this too also is explicitly in the text, and it is that first awakened moment, the first enlightenment. It's called Satori. So I believe it's answer choice D. There is the correct answer. 72% of you got that one correct, so a little better than 2/3 of you. And I can't now off the top of my head. I can't remember what the answer choice was that was most often picked, other than the correct one. And it might have been something like Nirvana, maybe. But it is Satori is the correct answer there. Okay, so those are the questions that I think are ones that it was important for you to review and make sure that you understand the correct answers, because those are most likely to play some role in what you're going to do next, which is the analysis response, as well as then make an appearance in the final exam sometime in the distant future. Okay, so now what I want to do is a brief autopsy of your first analysis response. And I just want to make some general remarks about it. I don't necessarily want to, in fact, I don't want to go through all of the items on the model because I've given you the feedback on that. So just to reemphasize the usefulness to you of the document that I uploaded to you on Canvas. Each of you got it back. Each of you got one with my comments to you, corrections and so on, advice for fixing some interpretations of the terms in the element, in the model, getting a better understanding of what that's looking for, as well as what Hinduism teaches, trying to identify those things. All of that is there to help you as you move forward into the next analysis response. So I can't emphasize enough to make sure that you review that before you complete the next analysis response for Buddhism, right? And I will have that, by the way, just as a logistical note, I'll have that assignment posted for you, I don't know, tomorrow maybe? No, I don't think there's any rush, because it's not going to be due until a week from today. So I have no idea what day that is. Someday in October, I think. But Wednesday next week is when your analysis response is due. So I'm not making it Sunday. So this is so that you have adequate time to review the first one you did, and then review the text and complete the model. I think it will be easier for you on the second one, and certainly going forward. Please let me know if it's not. If it gets more difficult for you, I definitely want to know that. Okay. Right. Okay, so here we go. So point number one, all right, so there's 10 points in the model, 10 elements in the model, and the first one is the human predicament. Okay, what is important to capture when you respond to that, or when you identify that, is what the predicament is. Not necessarily the cause of the predicament, not necessarily the effects of being in the predicament, but what the predicament is. What does the religion say is that unsatisfactory situation that all humans find themselves in? When they're aware of it, right? And we can be in that unsatisfactory situation and, be ignorant of it. So that's a possibility. Anyway, for Hinduism, you really can't answer that question accurately without the concept of samsara, the cycle of death and rebirth. So samsara has to appear in that. That describes that predicament that we're in. Now, it doesn't tell us why it's particularly unsatisfactory. You have to go into then the effects of that, of being in samsara. Okay, so just be aware that what you're looking for there is how the religion describes the unsatisfactory situation we're all in, the human predicament. You want to say what it is, not its cause, not its effects, those kinds of things. Okay? Is that clear? Hopefully? Good? All right. Number next is the need for salvation. So how does the religion describe what our paramount end is? What is the means, how does the religion describe our escape from, our overcoming of that human predicament? And in particular, the reason or why we are in danger of missing out on that salvation, on that escape, on that overcoming. So the need for salvation there is going to be talking about some form of liberation or emancipation or ultimate transformation or something like that. And in Hinduism, okay, the key concept there is moksha, is liberation. So you really can't identify this element of the model without that term, without that concept. So so make sure that in Buddhism you identify what that means of cure of our situation, the cure for our disease is, okay? Number 3, and this might be the most difficult one, I think, to make sense of. I'm still not totally satisfied with how I've described it in the model, although I've tried to expand on it. But basically, what this is looking for is the means by which we understand or come to see our need for the salvation and our way to it, the way to attain it. So it's religious insight. So what is it that then awakens us on that process to be cured, to be saved, to be emancipated, that kind of thing? All right, so it's the religious insight. How does that happen? Religious insight, particular into the need for and the way of salvation. Okay, and so in Hinduism, where this was described, is ultimately the cure is I'm sorry, not the cure, but the medicine is yoga, right? That's the technique by which we attain salvation or moksha. But there's a path of insight that leads to then the taking of the medicine, to use that metaphor, okay? And that is those two paths, right? The paths of desire and paths of renunciation. And so what happens is your insight is living just as an ordinary human being and sequentially, or maybe not sequentially, but opting to get on these different paths in order to find some satisfaction for what is unsatisfactory about human life, samsara. Okay, and the effects of samsara then. So you get to this point in those paths in life where you ask this question, is this all? You know, is this it? This does not seem to be satisfactory. And so that is, that's the instant at which the techniques, then, the medicine can be taken effectively, and you can then pursue the path of liberation, of moksha. Okay, so that's Hinduism. All right, I hope that was helpful. Like I said, that's a pretty hard one to kind of grasp. Like I mentioned, a periscope or two ago, a helpful way to think of these first three parts of the model are, let's see if I can get this right here. What is the problem? What is the solution? And what is the means or the technique to implement that solution? If you think of the first three in those terms, I think that will do almost as well as the descriptions I've given you. So, what is the problem? What's the human predicament? What is the unsatisfactory situation that the religion describes that we're in? Okay. Sorry if my voice is lowering here. I'm not meaning to lose you. All right. Questions so far? I want to get those first three, because really, if you get those first three, it becomes a lot easier to get the final seven, because they're interconnected with each other. I mean, you'll see overlaps between them. So, any questions on those that you want to ask about? Are we good to go? I can wait for a minute. Okay, so I'm going to take that as, let's go on, Hunter. Okay, number 4 is the unseen order. How does the religion describe the unseen order? Okay, and order is another word for realm or region or something like that. You know, but it's structured, right? It has some kind of rationality to it. And so an unseen order in Hinduism, you know, is the divine realm. Okay, and there I gave you, if you didn't have this one, I gave you references for that. So unseen order, you can substitute for that divine realm. How does the religion, and again, emphasize here, what is it? Not, you know, how do we get to it? Not what effects does it have in our life? Those kinds of things. What are examples of it? No, what is it? Try to describe it, and often there is a single term or a cluster of terms that will describe that. So in Hinduism, if you had to capture it with a single term, the divine realm, Brahman. Brahman would be the word to use there. Okay, and so, you know, and there are multiple then ways of describing that in your text. So, I mean, you can select from that, but that's sort of the key term that should be there in unseen order. Okay. The next one, number 5, is the incompleteness of the sensible order. Now, this was an interesting one. Again, I think part of the difficulty some of you were having is this word order. Again, it means realm or domain or kingdom or, you know, organized region, something like that. That's what an order is, okay? So the sensible order means that realm in which our senses are working or give us access to reality and by which we acquire knowledge, those kinds of things. So the sensible order, right? So not how, what does religion say about the sensible order, but what does it say about the incompleteness of the sensible order? And the reason incompleteness is there is because you have to go back to the previous element, which is the unseen order. The unseen order is always going to be of highest value, of supreme value or meaning or worth, right? And so the sensible order is always going to be derivative in value or derivative or deficient or lacking in some way of value or worth or meaning, okay? So the incompleteness is referring to that lack, right, to that derivative status of the sensible realm, the physical, if you will. Okay, so in Hinduism, the key term here is Maya, that the sensible order, the incompleteness of the sensible order is captured by the term Maya, which the common translation of that is illusion. Okay, it is the the tendency for the sensible realm, for the physical, to bewitch us into thinking that it is ultimately real. Okay? That's Maya. That's what Maya does. The physical bewitches us into thinking that it is ultimate. And it's not, because there's this unseen order of Brahman, which is not in the sensible order. And so that means that the sensible order is derivative, defective, in this case, illusory, in some form or fashion. Okay? It's not necessarily that it isn't real, but it's not ultimate in value, in worth, and meaning. Okay? So hopefully that's clear on that. So 4 and 5, the unseen order and the sensible order, those go together. Okay? Number 6, the supreme good for humans. Here is, let's see how to put this. So the supreme good is our paramount end, our highest aim. And so this is an example of one of the elements on your model that might overlap with number 2, that is with the need for salvation, which also is asking you for, hey, what is the paramount end or aim of human life? In Hinduism, that is moksha. So it would be appropriate to say moksha here as well as the supreme good for human beings. It goes further than that, because here supreme good can also describe that sort of final state as well. So I'm going to try to think of an analogy here real quick. Yeah, so if you think of this. Imagine a prisoner, okay? So the prisoner is in the human predicament. All right, that's the prison is whatever contains or holds the prisoner. And so it's rational for the prisoner to want to escape, right? To be liberated, to be emancipated from his or her prison. And so that's salvation, okay? Now, the supreme good then is, well, if the prisoner is liberated, if the prisoner is saved from the prison, to what is the prisoner saved? To what is the prisoner liberated? Where does the prisoner go from there? It's like, okay, wow, I'm liberated from the human predicament, but what is my final destination? Where's my home, if you will? Where's my ultimate home? And so in your text then, think the description of that can include Brahman, this sort of union with the Godhead. It can include things like infinite bliss. There's a nice sequence there about this sort of infinite state that is the supreme good. So anyway, if you think of the connection between 1, 2, and 6, that is the prison, the liberation from the prison, and then where the prisoner goes once liberated, that might be a way to sort of think about it in a different way that could help you. Okay, so that's supreme good for humans. Number 7, moral deficiency. Okay, so I'm going to keep this brief because I know I'm going kind of long and not all of you can stay. So moral deficiency. So what this is describing is some condition, and this is probably going to be best thought of as an effect of the predicament that we're in. Okay, so here you can see a connection between point number 1 and point number 7. Moral deficiency does not mean that we do bad things. It's not asking why we do bad things. That's not the point. The point here is what is it about us as we naturally are that prevents us from being liberated, from being emancipated, from being saved? In other words, there's something about our actions, our attitudes, our choices that holds us back, right? That is deficient or defective. And that is what you need to identify here, okay? So what is the moral deficiency that we suffer from? So moral just has to do with the realm of action, okay? So things like choice and attitudes and motivation, desire, those kinds of things. Okay, so that's what that category is about, is identifying what our moral deficiency is. Okay, then the next is number 8 is the human inability to remedy the deficiency. So again, taking this as we naturally are, why are we unable then to sort of fix ourselves, without some kind of guidance, without some kind of revelation or whatever? So now, give me just a moment as I think back to your analysis responses here and what I was seeing the most. I'm not sure that I could identify just one single thing, but hopefully that description of what is meant by that element in the model will help you. Gosh, I wish I could give you a quick description. Okay, so I guess the way to think of it in terms of Hinduism, at least, is the moral deficiency. What you would point to are the effects of samsara, the effects of being in the cycle of death and rebirth. Okay, so things like ignorance would be part of the moral deficiency. Our ego fixation is probably the best way to put it, and I think that's probably what I put on a lot of yours. Is the moral deficiency is this attachment we have to our own concrete existence, to our own that's not right. Our attachment to our personal identity, to our ego. So, and what that does, that attachment to, or that fixation on our ego, is we're constantly seeking to fulfill the demands, the cravings of the ego. Okay, and that's the moral deficiency then, is because we're ignorant of the absence of that, of the ego, the unreality of the ego. And yeah, so the one way to look at the remedy then, of course, to overcome that deficiency, is to be able to detach from one's ego, to be able to detach from the cravings that the ego demands to be satisfied. Okay? Can't get no satisfaction, as the Rolling Stones said. Okay. Yeah, and just thought of that. In Hinduism, that's literally true. I can't get no satisfaction. Yeah, the problem there is the I, is that the demands of the I, it's not the complaint. It's that there is this false notion of an I who, for reasons of ignorance mainly, is always constantly seeking to become satisfied. Well, an I can't be satisfied because it's false. It's illusory. Okay. Where was I? Oh, human inability to remedy that deficiency. Yeah. So, right. So what we require then is this detachment. Okay. And okay. Sorry, I'm going to move on to number 9 because this is really going long, I think. Didn't mean for it to go so long, folks. Number 9, the need for moral purification or transformation. Okay, so now we're getting into the sort of practical parts. Now we're getting into the medicine of the religion. So connected now to point number 3, that is the religious insight into the need for and way of salvation. So now, if we're morally deficient, if we have fallen from some great moral height, okay, and we are unable to remedy our condition ourselves on our own, what do we need? What we need to be turned, we need to be morally improved, we need to be purified, cleansed, and transformed in order to become our true selves. And I put self in scare quotes there, okay? But that need for moral purification or transformation is described in Hinduism as as a renunciation that then leads to yoga, right? And yoga being the practices of that purification. Purificatory, is that a word? Purificatory practices, right? That are that transform the self into Atman Brahman, right? That is then what Hinduism says about this need for moral purification or transformation. What is needed? The needful thing is renunciation of the ego, of attachment. Okay, and last but certainly not least is the aid available from the unseen order. Again, unseen order being a synonym here for divine realm. Right, so the process of self-transcendence then, and this is another way, I guess, to think of moral transformation, or purification is self-transcendence. Then the aid that is available to us, what assistance is there? Now, this could come in human forms, right, through teachers, through masters, through sages, but it may come through, actual divine beings. Okay, divine being, not that we would recognize as human. Okay, so now it may be not a being per se, but some operating principle, some divine operating principle in the universe, some cosmic principle that is on our side, that is friendly to us. Now, in Hinduism, this is expressed in the early Vedas, especially, but also by the mystic sages of the 16th through the 19th century. Of course, ones today as well, but the ones that are in your readings, in the Novak reading in particular. This aid is described as God's grace. And, the concept of grace here, is not exactly the same as the concept of grace, say, in Christianity. But the idea there is that there is this gift, right? It was a gift given to you from the divine realm to help you in the process of self-transcendence and to liberate you. Okay, so that is present in Hinduism, and that's where you would find that is in those early Vedas and in the mystic sages. They describe this in various kinds of ways. All right, so that is an autopsy of your very first analysis response assignment. And like I said again, you've got specific comments back from me, but I encourage you to maybe replay this Periscope and think through what of the things that I went over there did you maybe misinterpret on the first time you did it? What did you not have a good handle on? And if even after listening to this, you still aren't sure what that is, let me know. I would like to hear it. And in fact, I can hang out here for a few more minutes if you'd like. And if you want to ask me questions about anything on that analysis response, on the model, and how to apply it, please do ask. Because I definitely want to see you. I want to see you succeed on these because I think it's such a useful tool to really get to the heart of what these religions teach and practice. So go ahead and fire away. I know there's only a few of you left, but glad you're here. If you're thinking of a question for me, and by the way, it could be about the quiz if you want to talk about that. I was going to say something. Think, Hunter. Oh, yes. So a format request, and I did put this on the on one of the announcements, I think, or maybe it's even in the assignment itself. But just be sure when you do your next analysis response assignment that you do it in list form or outline form. You've got 10 things, right? So you can make a numbered list 1 through 10 if you want, or a numbered outline 1 through 10. You can follow the numbering convention that I have on the model, which uses, 1, 2, 3 for the 3 central principles, and then I think like A through, what would that be, G? 7, right? For the 7 key claims. If you want to use it, that's fine, but 1 through 10 is fine too. It's a lot easier. So I just encourage you to use that list form, and then, and again, focus on getting that key concept that that describes what the religion has to say about that particular element, like samsara, in the human predicament for Hinduism. If you get that key concept, it becomes a lot easier to write, your own description around that, and then to obviously find a quote for it. So yeah, I think that's all I wanted to say about that. Any other questions, folks? Thanks for staying around. I appreciate it. Oh, good. I'm really glad, Todd. I hope all the periscopes help. But I thought that this idea of doing an autopsy, on the quiz and the first analysis response would give you a leg up going forward, and that you can continue to improve. Yeah. So any others? And yeah, by the way, if you all have any suggestions about what you want to do in future periscopes, by all means, let me know. Great, excellent. I don't know who Skidho 100 is, but I assume you're in the class, right? But yeah, very, very glad that this is helpful, and I hope that it becomes. I hope these analysis response assignments become less of a chore for you, and more of a sense that wow, I really, really get this. Ah, Mary. Oh, okay, hi, Mary. And really a sense of accomplishment, that you are really getting. You're really grasping the heart of these religions and what they teach and believe and practice. And let me tell you, that is not easy to do, especially if you're an outsider to the religions. And so I'm really hopeful that, and I've heard some feedback from a couple of you, that you're getting that. And I hope that will just continue to grow for you, and that you'll really feel gain some confidence from this exercise. All right, I've done badly, folks. I will see you next week, and gosh, what will we talk about next week? We're going to talk about Confucianism next week. So you don't have to worry about reading this week, but next week it'll be Confucianism. So I will see you. I'll see you probably around Tuesday next week. Take care, and good luck on that analysis response assignment.